est-ce que le premier ministre a laissé entendre qu'il y aurait peut-être quelque chose à annoncer en lien avec le chemin Roxham en marge de la visite de M. Biden? Est-ce que vous pouvez nous éclairer? Est-ce qu'on a une solution sur les tiers pays sûrs ou c'est quelque chose de plus large sur l'immigration?
Je respecte bien entendu ce que le premier ministre a dit, mais ce que je peux vous dire, par contre, c'est que mon collègue Sean Fraser est allé à Washington il y a quelques semaines, a eu une bonne rencontre avec le secrétaire Mayorkas et moi-même, avec Tony Blinken, j'ai eu l'occasion de parler à plusieurs reprises de la question de l'immigration et plus particulièrement de la question du chemin Roxham. Donc, certainement, on va avoir des conversations avec l'administration Biden au cours des prochains jours sur cette question.
Est-ce qu'ils sont réceptifs?
Vous savez, on a toujours une bonne relation avec l'administration Biden et on essaie toujours de trouver des solutions.
Will Canada push back on the American request again for military intervention in Haiti? What will our response be to the president when he pushes the prime minister and yourself on this?
So, first and foremost, we know that the situation in Haiti is dire. The security situation is difficult. There is a humanitarian crisis also happening. And we've been leading on this question since last October. We've invested, within a year, $100 million in Haiti to make sure that we could help the country find solutions. Because at the end of the day, what we want as a country is for Haitians to find solutions themselves and that we can support them. So we need to make sure that we continue to have this approach. What we also have done, which is new in the circumstances, is to impose sanctions on the political and also on the economic elites. I will be announcing also new sanctions. We've coordinated with the U.S. on this. They've announced new sanctions recently again, and we are working with the EU on this issue.
Sur Haïti, Madame Joly, est-ce que vous sentez qu'il y a plus de pression depuis la visite de M. Blinken? Et est-ce que les sanctions, elles sont coordonnées avec les Américains, ou vous faites vos sanctions, ils font les leurs, ou est-ce qu'il y a un effort commun qui se fait là?
La première fois qu'on a vraiment beaucoup parlé de la question d'Haïti, c'était en fait à l'Organisation des États américains. Et c'était plusieurs pays de la CARICOM qui étaient préoccupés de la situation en Haïti. Et bien entendu, on en a parlé à l'époque avec les Américains. Et donc, c'est dans ces circonstances-là, c'était des pays de la région qui étaient préoccupés. Et peu à peu, c'en est venu une priorité pour tout l'hémisphère, incluant les États-Unis, incluant nous. Alors, c'est comme ça qu'on a commencé à parler de la situation.
Short of sending a ground force, is that totally off the table?
What we've said is that we would be helping Haitians to find solutions by themselves. And what I mean by that is particularly helping the Haitian National Police to deal with the gangs that have taken control of the island. We know that what is happening in Haiti is extremely difficult. There's been lots of innocent civilians that have been the target of gangs. We've seen lots of casualties over the past weeks. And obviously, we need to make sure that we do even more. That's why we will be talking, indeed, about the situation in Haiti with the American administration. That's why also the Prime Minister was in the region a month ago to talk about this with all the CARICOM leaders. So definitely Canada will be playing a role to help Haiti. We've been doing so since the fall. We will continue to do so.
And you had one question. President Xi's visit to Russia, any concerns about any change in Canada's reaction as a result of that visit?
Well, I've made a clear statement 2 days ago about this situation. What we think is if China really wants a peace deal, they need to say to Russia to get out of Ukraine. And I've said that to my Chinese counterpart a month ago. I think it's important also that President Xi talks to President Zelensky, because that hasn't been the case since February 24th. We're all in favor of peace. We all want peace. Canada will always stand up for peace. But at the end of the day, the invasion of Ukraine was done by Russia, going against the UN Charter, and for peace to happen, Russia needs to get out.
C'est quoi faire plus pour Haïti, Madame?
Au sujet de la visite de M. Biden à compter de demain, le chemin Roxham, est-ce que vous attendez un dénouement? Est-ce que le fruit est mûr pour une entente?
Maintenant, j'ai beaucoup de conversations avec les États-Unis. J'ai une rencontre dans le voyager à les États-Unis récemment et un autre appel avec mon homologue, c'est OK? Aux les États-Unis. C'est OK en anglais, juste pour clarifier les détails. Right now, we're still working together and closely. I was very encouraged by the nature of both the discussion I had during my trip to Washington, but also conversations that I've had since. Our focus right now is trying to solve a problem that will provide a lasting solution. Of course, I expect that there's going to be a lot of attention on all issues tied to the Canada-U.S. relationship, but my focus right now is on solving a challenge for the long term, not necessarily rushing things.
Can we expect some sort of a deal? Well, President Biden will be in town tomorrow.
Look, I think there's the conversations continue. I think this is going to require work over the period ahead. The exact nature and timing of what we're going to deal with will depend on conversations that are ongoing. So look, we'll know about the precise nature of the different aspects of the visit, I'm sure, when the Prime Minister and President are able to take your questions in a few days. But it will take some additional work.
I just have a question on repatriating Canadian.
I'll go here and
Yes,
then
I wanted
here.
to follow up on Roxham, if you don't mind. But
Okay, well, look, I'll go here and we can come back.
Yeah, it's just about repatriating. You've been asked to give temporary resident permits to 4 non-Canadian women so they can be brought back to Canada with their children. Right now, the children are allowed to come back, but not their mothers because the mothers are not Canadian citizens. Is that something that you're going to be able to do?
One of the things that I want to be careful about is there's some other colleagues who are involved in this, including global affairs and public safety. I think the principle that we try to promote when we deal with challenging situations is what's in the best interest of the children who are at issue. The situation that involves different individuals could vary between the specific details of individual cases. Of course, I'm not at liberty to share personal details of individual applicants for privacy reasons, but the guiding principles are making good on our right for citizens to return and promoting the best interests of the child. And I'm sure my colleagues who are leading this file will be able to provide further information should you ask. Sorry, I committed to come back here.
on Roxham Road, one of the things we heard is that the Americans might be asking in return to maybe take a share, that Canada takes a share of the migrants who come from the South in the United States. Is that part of the conversation at all?
The conversations that I've had with my counterpart are focused not exclusively on the Canada-U.S. border, but the wider issue of irregular migration. We should remind ourselves in Canada and around the world that irregular migration has increased significantly in recent years. The Americans have seen last year 2.3 million people that they're aware of who've crossed at the southwest border. They are laser focused on making sure that they're tackling the idea of irregular migration more broadly. In my view, Canada has more work to do to continue to build capacity in the region, in Central and South America in particular, but also to continue to create regular pathways so people see an opportunity to come through Canada. The way that I framed it for myself in my own mind is we need to have controlled borders, but open doors, including for some of the world's most vulnerable. To the extent they have conversations about Canada doing more, it's something that we, of course, remain open to in Canada as the world leader in refugee resettlement.
Is that part of the conversation that the U.S. would be asking Canada to do more? Because because of our geographical situation, we're kind of excluded from the situation, right? Are they asking us to maybe do more on that front?
Look, I hesitate in public to discuss the nature of private conversations with details, but I'm happy to say that the United States wants Canada to continue to play a leading role when it comes to working the vulnerable, including from the region where they see a lot of irregular migration taking place. The precise nature of how we can help address the issue of irregular migration more broadly is something that we still have some work to do to sort out finally, but it's something that we're more than open to.
Minister, there was a 6.5 magnitude earthquake in Pakistan yesterday. Has the government reached out to Afghan migrants in Pakistan to check on them to make sure they're okay?
We have been working with officials in Pakistan and people who are part of the program that find themselves in Pakistan temporarily on an ongoing basis. The precise conversations that have taken place with individual clients of IRCC who are destined to Canada, I'm not sure how many have been contacted over the past 24 hours since this news is obviously very, very recent, but we will be reaching out to people to understand how they may have been impacted and doing what we can with Pakistani officials in particular to continue to facilitate facilitate the arrival of people into Canada who are destined here, and to the extent that some have been particularly impacted by the recent natural disaster, that's something that we'll do our part on to figure out how we can help people arrive more quickly.
But you're not aware of any Afghans who are supposed to be coming to Canada, whether or not they're impacted?
I don't yet have that information. It usually takes us at least a few days to identify these precise impacts on challenges like this when it comes to people who are on the other side of the world that are destined to come to Canada. But I expect in the days ahead we'll have better information.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, merci.
Take care.
Question pour vous. Il y a des lobbies américains qui ont envoyé une lettre ouverte à la veille de la visite du président pour demander que le Canada recule sur C11, sur C18. Ils disent que c'est pas équitable, qu'il faut chercher trouver une solution. Vous répondez quoi à ça la veille de la visite présidentielle?
Que nos projets de loi respectent totalement nos engagements sur le plan international, en particulier au niveau du commerce international. Et on l'a vu en comité, plusieurs experts sont venus confirmer la position du Canada, qu'on respecte en tout point nos obligations en termes de commerce international. Et le projet de loi auquel vous faites question s'applique à tout le monde. S'applique à toute compagnie qui fait ce type d'affaires-là, pas juste aux Américains, ça s'applique les Américains, les Européens, même les entreprises canadiennes.
Qu'est-ce que vous allez faire si...
Can I get that in English, that response? I'm assuming you asked about the reaction for lobbying the president to talk about, these online news acts. What's, I guess, your thoughts on that? And do you think that Biden will address it?
What is clear is that we meet all international trade obligations, and all the experts that came to the committee confirmed that we're respecting all the obligations with our bills, because one thing is very important, these bills are not aimed at American companies. Any company that does this type of business is touched by the bills, be it American, European, even Canadian. And I had good conversations with the ambassadors of the United States on this. We're talking to the Americans on a regular basis, so I'm very confident we're okay.
Qu'est-ce que vous allez faire s'ils demandent des droits compensatoires à cause de ça?
Il n'y a aucune raison de demander des droits compensatoires.
Non, eux autres, ils disent qu'ils ont peut-être un motif pour le faire. Je parlais de représentants.
Ce projet de loi-là s'applique à toutes les compagnies qui ont ce type d'opération. Donc, la compagnie peut être américaine comme Netflix, elle peut être européenne comme Spotify, elle peut être canadienne aussi parce qu'on a des streamers chez nous.
Pensez-vous pouvoir s'essayer via l'accord de libre-échange?
Je ne vois pas pourquoi.
Just in English on that, like, how do you push back against the lobby on behalf of American companies that says you have no business regulating their big tech companies, you have no business going after them, that
the government of Canada is actually doing its job, and there are big tech companies that say, oh no, we're not going to let you do your job. Well, we'll do it.
Oh, that's good.
And on those bills, it touches any company that is in this type of business, be it American, European, or even Canadian. It's for everyone.
Are you concerned about this? Baisse d'impôts à Québec, M. Rodriguez. T'as-tu le temps de faire ça? T'as-tu le temps de faire ça, non? J'en parle, les baisses d'impôts à Québec, t'as-tu le temps de faire ça?
Ça leur appartient. Hein? On a assez de choses à faire ici, on va leur laisser faire leurs choses à Québec.
Est-ce que ça peut alimenter l'inflation, vous pensez? Est-ce qu'on a laissé
écoutez, il faudra voir, mais tu sais, ça leur appartient. Je pense que nous, on se focalise beaucoup sur le budget qui s'en vient fédéral. La ministre Freeland a déjà expliqué un peu sa vision, puis je pense que c'est important. T'sais, on est à un moment de l'histoire, mais aussi de l'économie mondiale où j'allais dire, les budgets prennent toute leur importance. Hein? Les orientations, les politiques qui vont être mises de l'avant vont être importantes. Alors, nous, c'est toujours, comme elle l'a dit, d'abord, c'est la question de l'abordabilité. On sait que les gens, la meilleure préoccupation des gens, c'est le coût de l'épicerie, c'est le chauffage, c'est l'électricité, c'est les coûts de base pour tout le monde. Ensuite de ça, bien évidemment, tout ce qu'on parle, vous avez vu ce qu'on a fait avec Volkswagen récemment, donc comment on continue d'être bien positionné pour l'économie du 21e siècle. Moi, je pense que c'est important parce que c'est les emplois d'aujourd'hui, mais il faut penser aussi, notre rôle, c'est pas juste aujourd'hui, c'est les générations à venir. Alors, bien se positionner dans l'avenir, c'est important aussi.
Pour M. Biden, on a déjà eu notre place dans la chaîne nord-américaine pour les véhicules électriques. Qu'est-ce qu'on peut avoir de plus? Ce serait quoi la chose numéro 1 que vous aimeriez obtenir cette semaine?
Ben, vous connaissez, hein? Je suis pas prêt de m'arrêter. À 52 ans, la route continue. Mais je vous dirais, c'est sûr que c'est important parce que vous voyez, depuis ce moment-là, ça a été un moment, j'allais dire stratégique, parce que si c'est bon pour Volkswagen, c'est à peu près bon pour tout le monde. Alors, l'idée derrière ça, c'est quand on amène un joueur comme ça, c'est que ça donne, je pense, vous avez vu l'article du Wall Street Journal aujourd'hui qui parlait justement du Canada, de ce qu'on est en train de bâtir. Ce qui est important, c'est que là, les décideurs mondiaux commencent à regarder le Canada de façon importante. C'est-à-dire, nous, on le dit depuis longtemps, mais tu sais, la qualité des travailleurs, des travailleuses qu'on a, l'énergie verte, les ressources naturelles. Alors, évidemment, ce que ça donne, c'est un moment crucial parce que c'est rare dans une vie qu'on vit une transition aussi importante. Tu sais, vous savez, on a tous conduit des véhicules à essence, puis on s'en va vers l'électrique. Donc, ça arrive une fois par génération, peut-être, une fois dans une vie. Et là, nous, bien, on se positionne en avant de la file. Ça, c'est important pour moi parce que au-delà de l'investissement, c'est le message que ça envoie. Tu sais, c'est un coup de circuit pour le Canada, c'est un vote de confiance. Vote de confiance pour l'industrie, mais aussi nos travailleurs, parce que ça commence toujours là. Puis dans la même semaine, on a eu Michelin, on a eu BMW. C'est une grosse semaine pour le Canada.
Est-ce que M. Poilievre, ce matin, il disait que depuis 8 ans, le Canada n'a rien fait pour lutter contre le Buy American Act? Vous répondez quoi à ça?
Bien, écoutez, tu sais, pour les conseils économiques, on va passer à quelqu'un d'autre. Hein? Vous savez, nous, on a amené un investissement comme Volkswagen qui va donner des dividendes pour les générations à venir. Lui, ce qu'il proposait il n'y a pas longtemps aux gens, ses conseils d'investissement, c'était dans la crypto-monnaie. Alors, pour quelqu'un qui s'y connaît en finance, je pense qu'on va continuer avec ce qu'on fait là. C'est beaucoup plus judicieux pour le pays. Mais c'est pour ça que je vous dirais, mais regardez, si vous n'avez pas besoin de le prendre de moi, là, les gens qui nous regardent ont juste à voir les actions. Je pense que les actions, ça parle plus que des mots. Hein? Des mots, quand on est de l'autre côté, c'est facile à dire, mais d'amener un investissement comme Volkswagen ou BMW, qu'on n'a pas beaucoup parlé, mais BMW qui a annoncé très récemment que tout l'aluminium pour tous ces véhicules en Amérique du Nord viendrait du Saguenay au Québec. Grande nouvelle. Donc, l'idée de devenir le fournisseur de choix vert stratégique du monde, bien, on le voit en action. Alors, je pense que nos actions en disent plus long que des commentaires peut-être du chef d'opposition.
Vous achetez une BMW?
Non, moi, je vais continuer avec une voiture un peu plus abordable. Bonne journée tout le monde. Merci.
So, the UN is saying that we need to hasten our path to net zero. I think they said by 2040.
Yes.
We're going to do that?
Well, as I said a couple of days ago, this is a new request from the United Nations and the IPCC, and we take very seriously the scientific information that we've been given over the years by the IPCC. I have, in fact, all of the reports of the IPCC since 1990. But we can't just commit on a whim. We have to be able to look at how we get there. That's one thing, as I said earlier, to commit, but we need a plan to get there. So this is something we will be working on in the coming months.
Do you think that the budget next week is going to address many of the climate issues and climate policies that need to happen in the next few years?
As you know, I'm the Minister of Environment, not the Minister of Finance, but the Minister of Finance has said that the issue of clean technologies would be part of the budget. So I'm, like you, I'm very eager to see what will be announced next week.
Is there a fear that Canada could be left behind with the U.S. making major investments in the clean economy? And will that pop up in the discussions with Biden?
I think it is amazing that the U.S. is investing so much in clean technologies and to fight climate change, but on a per capita basis, we're doing 3 times more than the Americans are. We're already investing $120 billion. The Americans want to invest a little over $300 billion. They're 10 times bigger than we are. So we are punching above our weight. On top of that, we have a number of regulations to tackle climate change. We have carbon pricing, which unfortunately they can't have at the federal level in the U.S. So I think Canada is very well positioned. And the fact that just last week, the Prime Minister and the Minister of Innovation, Minister Champagne, announced a very large, it's the first time in 35 years we attract to Canada a new vehicle manufacturer, Volkswagen. And if it's not the largest battery manufacturing facility in North America, it will be one of the largest battery manufacturing societies, so we can do that.
Est-ce que vous avez l'impression que Mme Freeland vous a quand même écouté un peu pour élaborer son budget, ou est-ce qu'il y a il a fallu peut-être choisir des choses dans vos priorités?
Il faut toujours faire des choix en tant que ministre et dans la vie en général. On n'a jamais tout ce qu'on veut. J'ai eu de très bonnes conversations avec Mme Freeland et je pense que vous avez vu comme moi qu'elle a déjà annoncé que la question des technologies propres, des énergies renouvelables ferait partie du budget. Je n'ai pas vu le budget, je vais le voir à peu près en même temps que vous. Alors très hâte moi aussi de voir ça la semaine prochaine.
You said last week that fossil fuel subsidies were going to be cut sort of the first half of this year as promised. But we still haven't seen the peer review. We still haven't even seen a definition of what an inefficient fossil fuel subsidy is. When are we going to start to see those things?
Well, actually, you saw we proposed a framework for international fossil fuel subsidies before Christmas, which was applauded by environmental groups and some groups that tend to be very critical of what we do on that. We are working to phase out, as we've committed to do, domestic fossil fuel subsidies, and we will see real progress on that in the coming weeks. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
We've been talking a couple months ago about hoping to see a lot about clean energy, clean electricity grids, in this in next week's budget. Any chance that you have any hope for that still?
Well, we all have hope until budget day, right? But I would say that the grid, a clean electricity grid, underpins our ability to meet our emissions reduction targets and to achieve the kind of economy, the clean growth economy that we want to see going forward. So I think the government understands that that's a critically important enabler.
The other day, the IPCC report suggested, though, that the clean electricity grid by 2035 has to have no gas, not just no coal, but no gas. Canada's clearly still going to have gas. How do you react to that?
Well, I would say you can't have unabated gas. You need to have high levels of carbon capture if you're going to have natural gas plants. But I think that is the focus of the work that Minister Guilbeault is doing, is ensuring that you get to the point where you essentially have a non-emitting grid, some of which may include gas, but with carbon capture.
So we don't have any intention to phase out gas, but we might regulate the inclusion of capture or carbon capture.
Well, I think, in order to achieve a non-emitting grid, if you're going to use gas, you're going to have high levels of carbon capture. But I think it's also important for people to understand that across this country, different provinces are in different situations. Provinces like Saskatchewan and Alberta don't have large-scale hydro. They need baseload power. That certainly in the future may well be in part nuclear, but in the short term, there is a role for gas, but you're going to have carbon abatement on the gas plants.
On critical minerals, how will that discussion go with President Biden, and will there be an announceable after the meeting on where to go from there?
Certainly, there are going to be lots of conversations around critical minerals. It's an area that's really important, and that is not just cobalt and lithium and graphite. It's also things like uranium and nuclear fuel cycle. But there will be lots of conversation, and I expect that there will be something to be said in the final communique.
But what's your message to those who say Canada can't approve these projects fast enough? The critical minerals project, and you're being challenged at the federal court now on your environmental impact legislation. So what's your message to the U.S. about how fast Canada can move, or are we going to be surpassed by other countries?
Well, first of all, the Americans actually look to us in terms of how to actually expedite mining projects. I talked to Secretary Granholm about that a lot. She looks at Canada as a model vis-a-vis the United States. But we have to do better. We have to go faster. We have to do that without cutting corners from an environmental perspective, without actually in any way disturbing our consultation obligations with Indigenous peoples. We have a process in place right now at the federal level that's looking at how we can actually make our systems more efficient. I would say the Impact Assessment Act was part of that. It is intended to allow good projects to actually move ahead more quickly. But we are doing a bunch of work here, and we're doing work with the provinces and territories through the table. So.
The Israeli finance minister, I believe, has said that the Palestinians are not a people. What is Canada's position? What do you say?
So Canada's position has been long-standing. We believe in a two-state solution. And we believe also that it is the only way to get to a just and lasting peace in the Middle East. And we also believe that our involvement has always been based on the fact that we support the rule of law and the institutions that uphold them. And so very shameful comments from the Israeli finance ministers are just unacceptable and not permitting this two-state solution possibility. And so we call for de-escalation, and also we condemn any and all acts of violence. Thank you.